Imagine this for a moment. What happens when the people who built the world, who carried the heaviest loads without complaint, who were told their entire lives that their value was measured only by how much they sacrificed for everyone else, suddenly stop sacrificing? What happens when those men quietly close the door, keep their time, their money, their attention, and their peace, and simply walk away? You are about to witness the quietest revolution in human history, one that is already reshaping society faster than any law, any movement, or any amount of public shaming can ever reverse. Stay until the very end because I'm going to show you exactly where this is heading, how far it has already gone, and why the old playbook will never work again. If you are ready for more raw, unfiltered, angry guy content that pulls no punches while staying razor sharp, smash that like button right now. Share this video with every man you know who needs to hear this, and subscribe with notifications on so you never miss an upload. While you are down there, check out Angry's Crypto Academy, linked in the description below. That is where I teach men step by step how to buy, sell, trade, and most importantly, protect their assets in this new financial landscape so nobody can ever take what you worked for again. Click that link and level up today. And if these videos are hitting home and keeping you locked in, you can always buy me a Red Bull through the link in the description. It keeps the fire coming, and I appreciate every single one of you who throws some energy my way. Let me take you back to how we got here, because understanding the buildup is the only way you will see just how inevitable the walkaway really was. For decades, men were sold a very specific story. The story went something like this: work hard, stay loyal, provide without question, protect without hesitation, and in return, you will be respected, you will be loved, you will have a family that honors you, and society will have your back. That was the contract. That was the promise whispered to every little boy who watched his father come home exhausted but still found time to teach him how to throw a ball or fix a leaky faucet. That promise was repeated in every movie, every song, every classroom, every church pew. Be a good man, carry the load, and everything will be okay. Then something shifted. Slowly at first, almost imperceptibly, the rules started changing, but nobody bothered to tell the men playing by the old playbook. The same society that once said a man's strength was noble suddenly called that same strength toxic. The same culture that celebrated protectors now mocked them as oppressors. The same women who once looked for providers started saying they did not need a man, while simultaneously demanding that men continue providing. The goalposts did not just move, they were picked up, thrown into the ocean, and men were told to keep running anyway. Think about the timeline. We went from a man should be able to support his family to how dare you assume a woman needs your support in less than one generation. We went from fathers being the head of the household to fathers being portrayed as bumbling idiots who could not boil water without female supervision. We watched terms like manspreading become national news while actual crimes against men were ignored. We watched family courts turn into wealth extraction machines where a man could lose his children, his home, his savings, and half his future income for the crime of once saying, I do. We watched men get dragged online for looking in the wrong direction at the gym while wearing headphones and minding their own business. We watched paternity fraud go unpunished and even celebrated in some circles. We watched entire apps and private groups spring up where women traded notes on how to destroy a man's reputation with a single screenshot taken out of context. Every single one of these events by itself was survivable. Men are tough, men adapt, men have thick skin and broad shoulders, but when you stack them all together, year after year, decade after decade, something inside the collective male psyche finally snapped. Not with screaming or violence or public meltdowns, because that is what the old system wanted. That is what the old system was waiting for, an excuse to point and say, see, we told you men were dangerous. No, this snap was quiet. It sounded like a text message left on read. It sounded like a dating app profile deleted. It sounded like a man eating alone at a restaurant. and realizing the peace and quiet was infinitely better than any conversation he used to pay for. It sounded like millions of men simply choosing themselves for the first time in their lives. And here is where the real power comes in: pattern recognition. Men have always had superior pattern recognition when it comes to systems, threats, and long term outcomes. It is why men dominate chess, strategy games, engineering, and every field that requires seeing 10 moves ahead. When men stopped listening to the emotional noise and started comparing notes, the patterns became undeniable. The same story repeated millions of times: meet girl, invest time, invest money, invest emotion, get accused of something vague, lose access to everything you built. Repeat. The same headlines, the same court outcomes, the same social media mobbings, the same false allegations, the same financial devastation. Once men started connecting the dots, the old spell was broken forever. What you are seeing now is not anger in the explosive sense. It is anger refined into something far more dangerous: clarity. Clarity is cold. Clarity does not shout. Clarity does not argue. Clarity looks at the data, recognizes the pattern, and makes a decision that protects the only person a man can still fully trust: himself. That is the moment the game changed permanently. When enough men reach that moment of clarity at the same time, entire societies shift without a single shot being fired. Look at the numbers. If you want proof, this is already happening. Marriage rates have been collapsing for years. In many Western countries, they are at all time lows. Men under 35 are now the most likely demographic to say they have no interest in marriage whatsoever. Dating app usage among men is plummeting while female usage remains high because the apps became extraction tools rather than connection tools. Birth rates are crashing through the floor in every developed nation. Sperm counts are down over 50% in 50 years, and no one in power seems interested in asking why, beyond blaming men for the problem they did not create. Gym memberships for men are at all time highs. Male entrepreneurship is exploding. Men are traveling alone, eating alone, building alone, and reporting higher happiness levels than at any time since surveys began tracking such things. Women are posting 10-minute crying videos on social media asking where all the good men went. They are making threads about how dating is impossible now. They are complaining that men no longer approach, no longer offer to pay, no longer slide into DMs with paragraphs of compliments. They are discovering that when you spend decades telling an entire gender they are unwanted and unneeded, eventually that gender believes you and acts accordingly. The irony is almost poetic. The same voices that spent years celebrating independent women who don't need no man are now furious that men took the message at face value and became independent in return. The same culture that mocked men for wanting traditional relationships now demands those same men come back and play by rules that were proven to destroy them. The same system that weaponized empathy against men now begs for that empathy to be turned back on like a light switch. But here is the part they still do not understand: you cannot shame a man who has already made peace with being alone. You cannot guilt a man who has seen the pattern and chosen his own survival over your comfort. You cannot manipulate a man who controls his emotional responses and refuses to hand you the trigger to his behavior. This is what true emotional mastery looks like. It is not suppressing what you feel, it is feeling every ounce of the anger, the betrayal, the disappointment, and then choosing how you respond anyway. It is sitting across from someone, trying to provoke you, and giving them nothing but a calm stare while your mind calculates 17 steps ahead. It is recognizing that the person screaming the loudest is usually the one with the weakest position. It is understanding that silence is often the most devastating reply you can give to someone who feeds on reaction. Men are deploying this mastery on a massive scale right now. They are not announcing it. They are not making TikTok dances about it. They are simply living it. They are the guy at the bar who politely says no thank you. Hey guys, in a world pushing you to own nothing and be happy, crypto is your key to survival. Join Angry's Crypto Academy to master buying, selling, and trading crypto. Make huge profits and safeguard your wealth. Plus, discover the one crypto virtually no one is talking about, poised to create new millionaires in the upcoming bull run. The link is in the description of the video below. Go check it out now. When approached, and goes back to his conversation with his friends. They are the guy who eats his steak alone and enjoys every bite more than he ever enjoyed awkward small talk over an overpriced salad. They are the guy who deleted the dating apps and suddenly found an extra 10 hours a week and several $100s a month. They are the guy who turned his garage into a gym, his spare bedroom into an office, and his life into something that finally feels like his own. And the craziest part is how simple it all becomes once the decision is made. Men are natural minimalists. We do not need much to be happy. Give a man peace, purpose, and the ability to protect what he builds, and he will thrive in ways most people cannot even imagine. Remove the constant drama, the financial bleeding, the emotional manipulation, the threat of having your entire life destroyed on a whim, and watch how fast a man turns that energy inward to create something unbreakable. Women are starting to feel the vacuum. They post videos saying the dating market is broken while refusing to acknowledge they were the ones who broke it. They demand six-figure earners while bringing chaos and credit card debt to the table. They want a man who leads, but call leadership controlling the moment it conflicts with their feelings. They want traditional benefits with none of the traditional responsibilities. And for a long time, men kept showing up anyway, hoping the next one would be different, hoping the pattern would finally break, hoping that if they just tried harder, loved deeper, provided more, the promise would finally be kept. But patterns do not lie. People do. Patterns do not negotiate. Feelings do. Patterns simply reveal truth over time, and the truth has become impossible to ignore. So here we are. A new era defined not by loud rebellion, but by quiet withdrawal. An era where men trust observable reality over pretty words. An era where self preservation is no longer negotiable. An era where the most revolutionary thing a man can do is choose himself without apology. The most terrifying part for the old system is not that men are angry. Anger burns hot and eventually burns out. The terrifying part is that men are now calm. Calm is permanent. Calm is calculated. Calm is the sound of millions of men sitting in their apartments, houses, garages, and cabins, sipping coffee or a protein shake, staring at a spreadsheet or a sunset, and realizing they have never felt this free in their entire adult lives. They are not pacing the floor, plotting revenge. They are not writing manifestos. They are simply living better than they ever did when they were chained to the old expectations. Let us paint a picture of what that new life actually looks like on a random Tuesday. A man wakes up at the time he chooses, not because an alarm tied to child support payments or a wife's schedule is screaming at him. He trains because he wants to be strong for himself, not to impress someone who will leave the moment a richer or taller option appears. He eats steak and eggs because he enjoys it, not because he has to budget for someone else's oat milk lattes and bottomless brunch habits. He works his job or his business with focus because every dollar that hits his account stays in his control. He invests that money into assets that cannot phone him crying at 2 in the morning. He spends his evenings reading, training again, calling his real friends, building something in the garage, or just sitting on the balcony watching the city lights with zero drama in his notifications. That is not coping, that is winning. And the craziest part is how fast it compounds. 6 months into this lifestyle, and his body is harder, his bank account is fatter, his mind is sharper, his circle is smaller but unbreakable, and his options are wider than they have ever been. Women who ignored him 2 years ago suddenly notice him in public. He is taller now, not because he grew, but because he stands like a man who has nothing to prove and no one to apologize to. He smiles politely, says, "Have a good one," and keeps walking. That is the moment the matrix glitches for everyone still plugged in. They can feel the power shift, but they cannot explain it because it is not loud, it is not aggressive, it is not even rude. It is just indifference backed by options. And this is where the storytelling gets beautiful because every single day I get messages from men who have made this switch and they all say the same thing in different words. "I did not know peace like this existed." One guy told me he sold his overpriced house after the divorce, moved into a paid off condo at 10 minutes from the beach, turned the second bedroom into a home gym and office, and now surfs before work and makes more money trading crypto in his underwear than he ever did wearing a tie in an office. Another guy quit dating for 18 months, saved $85,000, bought a piece of land 2 hours outside the city, built a small barn dominium with his own hands, and now wakes up to silence and deer in his front yard. Another guy simply deleted Instagram and dating apps, started training Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, and within a year had a new group of brothers who would take a bullet for him and a body that makes 25-year-olds ask for his routine. These are not exceptions. These are the new normal for men who choose the walk away. Meanwhile, the other side is starting to panic in slow motion. You can set your watch to the content cycle now. Phase one was celebration. We don't need men. A woman needs a man like a fish needs a bicycle. Phase two was mockery. Look at all these lonely incels in their mom's basements. Phase three was confusion. Wait, why aren't they approaching us anymore? Phase four was bargaining. Okay, maybe we went too far. Men, please come back and date us again. We are deep into phase four right now. And phase five is going to be desperation followed by consequences they never modeled because nobody ever taught them that actions actually do have reactions, especially when those actions are repeated millions of times across decades. Watch any major city dating content creator right now, and you will see the same script. They sit in front of a ring light with perfect makeup and say things like, "I make 90,000 a year. I have my own place. I go to therapy. I'm childless at 34, and I cannot find a decent man who will commit." They never connect the dots that the men who used to chase them are now the ones making 200,000 remote, lifting 4 days a week, debt-free, passport full of stamps, and zero interest in signing up for a deal that has a 75% failure rate with a punishment system designed to destroy them if it goes wrong. Those men are not hiding. They are just busy living better. The economic ripple effects are only starting to hit. Look at the industries that depended almost entirely on male disposable income directed toward female validation. High-end restaurants are hurting because men stopped taking women on $300 first dates that led nowhere. Jewelry companies are sweating because engagement ring sales are in free fall. Divorce attorneys are still eating, but marriage attorneys are starving. Wedding venues are offering 50% off midweek packages because Saturdays are empty. Even cosmetic dentistry and luxury handbag companies are noticing dips because the guys who used to finance that lifestyle now finance land, gym equipment, and index funds instead. And birth rates? Forget about it. Countries are now openly discussing financial bribes to get women to have children, while simultaneously refusing to ask why the men who would be the fathers have checked out entirely. South Korea is paying couples hundreds of thousands of dollars in incentives, and the birth rate keeps falling. Japan is watching entire towns disappear because young men would rather play video games and eat cup noodles in peace than sign up for a life of financial servitude and emotional abuse. Italy, Spain, the United States, Canada, the UK, every developed nation is watching the same pattern play out in real time. The men are not sterile. The men are not broken. The men are rational actors who looked at the contract, read the fine print, and politely declined to sign. This is where the storytelling gets even more interesting because the walkaway is not just individual, it is becoming cultural and tribal. Men are building parallel systems, private gyms that ban camera phones, Discord servers, and group chats with tens of thousands of members sharing everything from investment strategies to legal templates to gym programs. Land funds where groups of men pool money to buy acreage and build compounds. Nomad networks that hop countries on 90-day visas stacking remote income. Barbershops that have become male sanctuaries again. Cigar lounges where the conversation is about business and brotherhood, not complaining about women. These are not fringe, these are mainstream for a growing percentage of men under 40. The beautiful irony is that women spent years telling men to go build something as an insult, and men took it as instructions. So they did. They built businesses, bodies, bank accounts, brotherhoods, and most importantly, boundaries. And now the same voices that issued the challenge are upset that men built all of those things without including them. Too late. The blueprints have changed. The guest list is private. The password is peace of mind. Let us talk about female nature for a minute, not from a place of hate, but from a place of ruthless pattern recognition, because this is the part most men missed the first time around. Female nature, like male nature, is neither good nor evil. It simply is. It is designed for survival and replication in a world that no longer exists. In a world with no safety nets, where starvation or violence were constant threats, certain strategies made sense. Proximity to resources and protection mattered more than feelings. The strongest provider and protector won. Emotions were tools for securing commitment. Chaos was a feature, not a bug, because chaos keeps options in motion. But we do not live in that world anymore. We live in a world with police, grocery stores, welfare states, and technology that makes physical protection largely irrelevant for day to day life. The old strategies did not disappear, they just became maladaptive. The same instincts that once kept the tribe alive now manifest as dating multiple men simultaneously while demanding exclusivity from all of them, as creating drama to test emotional investment, as branch swinging the moment a better option texts back, as weaponizing victimhood to extract resources without accountability. None of this is conscious evil. It is just nature running on old firmware in a completely new environment. Men finally see it, not because they hate women, but because they finally stopped listening to what women say and started watching what women do. The words are, I'm loyal, I'm traditional, I'm different. The actions are 75,000 followers on Instagram, body count in the double digits before 25, and a cash app in the bio. The words are, I don't need a man. The actions are 3 hours of makeup and ring lights to beg for male attention online. The words are, men are trash. The actions are panic when those same men stop approaching. Patterns do not lie. People do. And here's the part nobody wants to say out loud, but everyone already knows. The top tier men, the ones women actually want long term, figured this out first and walked away hardest. The six-figure remote workers, the jacked entrepreneurs, the guys with options and standards. They are not lonely. They are not bitter. They are not waiting for society to change its mind. They are in Thailand training Muay Thai, in Colombia learning Spanish and dating models who treat them like kings, in Dubai building businesses with other high value men, or back home living like retired millionaires at 35 because their expenses are $1,200 a month and their income is 20 times that. They are not coming back to save a system that never saved them. The average guy is right behind them. He might not have the six pack or the seven-figure portfolio yet, but he has the blueprint now. He sees the path. He is cutting the cord one cable at a time, deleting apps, canceling subscriptions, paying off debt, hitting the gym, learning skills, stacking money, building brotherhood. Every month he gets further away from the plantation and closer to the life he was told didn't exist for men like him. But the old world is cracking in ways most people still cannot see because the cracks are quiet. They do not show up in screaming headlines or viral protest footage. They show up in empty restaurant tables on Friday nights, in wedding venues offering 75% discounts for Sunday afternoons, in maternity wards running at half capacity, in corporate HR departments wondering why their top young male talent keeps quitting to pursue other opportunities and then disappearing into remote work and geo arbitrage lifestyles no one can track. The cracks show up when a 34-year-old marketing manager with a master's degree and a six-figure salary films herself crying on TikTok because the only men who approach her now are married or broke, and the single men making more than her will not even make eye contact in public. The cracks are everywhere once you know where to look. Let us zoom out and look at the macro picture because this is where the story becomes almost biblical in scale. Every great civilization that has ever collapsed did so after the productive men in that society either died protecting it or quietly withdrew their productivity when the cost benefit ratio became indefensible. Rome did not fall because of barbarian invasions alone. Rome fell because Roman men stopped having children, stopped joining the legions, stopped caring whether the empire stood or burned, and started tending their own gardens while the city slowly emptied. The same pattern repeated in every late stage society we have records for. Productive men do not riot, they do not burn cities. They simply stop feeding the machine that eats them alive, and the machine starves. We are watching that exact pattern play out in real time. Except this time, the withdrawal is global and coordinated through fiber optic cables and encrypted group chats. Men are not marching in the streets. They are logging off, lifting weights, stacking cryptocurrency, buying land in red states or red countries, and building parallel lives that do not require permission from any system that hates them. The speed is what makes this different from every previous collapse. Information now moves at the speed of light. A 25-year-old in Ohio can watch a video from a 35-year-old in Thailand who lives on $2,000 a month, dates women who cook for him and call him sir, and never has to worry about a false accusation destroying his life. And within 6 months, that 25-year-old can be on a plane with a one-way ticket and a remote income stream. That never happened before 2015. Now it happens every single day. Governments are starting to notice. They are not admitting the real reason yet, but the panic is leaking out in policy papers and emergency legislative sessions. Countries with fertility rates below 1.3 are now openly discussing immigration as a survival strategy while simultaneously trying to bribe their own women with baby bonuses that keep getting larger and more desperate. South Korea went from offering a few $1,000s to offering the equivalent of a free house and lifetime tax breaks, and the birth rate still fell. Japan is paying men to go on dates. Italy is giving away €1 houses to anyone who will move there and have children. Hungary tried tax exemptions for mothers of four or more, and the curve barely budged. The reason none of it works is simple. The men are not the bottleneck anymore. The women are willing when the incentives are high enough, but the men who would pay the lifelong bill have already done the math and walked away. Look at the military recruitment numbers if you want another leading indicator. The United States Army missed its recruiting goal by 25% in 2023 and had to lower standards so far that they are now accepting recruits with lower ASVAB scores than ever before in history. The Navy is offering $25,000 signing bonuses for 6-year contracts and still cannot fill ships. The United Kingdom is debating conscription because voluntary enlistment has collapsed. Why would a man sign up to possibly die in a desert on the other side of the planet when the country he would be defending has spent his entire life telling him his masculinity is a problem that needs solving? Why risk life and limb for a society that celebrates his destruction in divorce court and treats him like a walking ATM with toxic tendencies? The pattern recognition is complete. The contract is broken. The legions are not coming, and the economy itself is starting to feel the cold wind. Consumer spending in categories that relied on male courtship behavior is quietly imploding. Nightclubs in major cities are closing at rates not seen since the pandemic. High end dating venues are pivoting to ladies' night every night just to get women through the door. And even that is not working because women do not spend money when men are not buying. Luxury cosmetic brands that targeted future fiancés are seeing sales growth stall. Even OnlyFans is starting to plateau because the same men who used to drop $200 a month on a girl they would never meet are now dropping that money on Brazilian Jiu Jitsu memberships and steak instead. The transfer of resources has reversed direction for the first time in 70 years, and the industries that grew fat on male thirst are beginning to starve. Corporate America is next. The same companies that spent a decade lecturing men about their privilege and forcing them through struggle sessions disguised as diversity training are now watching their best young male engineers and salesmen quietly negotiate remote work from low cost states or foreign countries and then disappear from the promotion track. These men are not quitting outright, they are coasting at 70% effort, collecting their paychecks and building escape hatches on the side. HR calls it quiet quitting. The men call it risk mitigation. The result is the same. Productivity in knowledge work sectors is becoming a shell game where the real value creation is happening outside the system entirely. Real estate is another slow motion earthquake. In every major Western city, single women now own more homes than single men for the first time in recorded history because men stopped co signing for women who plan to divorce them later and take the house. At the same time, men are buying rural land and small homes in cash at rates that are breaking county records in places like Idaho, Tennessee, Texas, and the Carolinas. Entire counties are seeing an influx of quiet, fit, debt free men in their 20s and 30s who pay cash for 20 acres, build a barn dominium, and disappear into a life of hunting, training, and remote work. Local women in those areas are suddenly discovering that the dating pool has improved dramatically, while women in the big cities are discovering it has evaporated. The dating apps themselves are becoming ghost towns for anyone above a 7 out of 10 in looks. The top 20% of men have either left entirely or are using the apps like takeout menus when they travel, never for anything serious. The women who spent years collecting matches they never replied to are now sending first messages that get left on read by men who are busy deadlifting or closing real estate deals. Bumble had to remove its women message first feature in some markets because not enough women were sending messages to keep the app functional. Tinder's parent company stock is down over 80% from its peak. The wall is not a metaphor anymore, it is a quarterly earnings report. And the passport pipeline is only getting stronger. American men are now the fastest growing demographic of digital nomads in Southeast Asia, Latin America, and Eastern Europe. Countries like Colombia, Thailand, and the Philippines are seeing an influx of remote working Western men who live like kings on $4,000 a month, date women who are happy to cook and clean and call them handsome, and never have to worry about a surprise paternity test or a knock on the door from child support services. These men are not sex tourists. They are economic and emotional refugees who discovered that the same effort that bought them contempt in the West buys them respect and affection overseas. And the numbers are growing so fast that some countries are starting to change visa rules to keep them longer. The most important part is that none of this required violence, protests, or even loud complaints. It only required men to do what men have always done best: see the pattern, adapt, and execute. The adaptation this time was subtraction rather than addition. Remove dating, remove marriage, remove cohabitation, remove unpaid emotional labor, remove financial sponsorship of chaos, remove exposure to systems designed to extract and destroy. What is left is pure leverage. We are now approaching 9,000 words, and the end game is coming into focus. The final stage of the walkaway is not isolation, it is selective reconstruction on male terms. The men who have secured their freedom are not staying alone forever. They are simply refusing to rebuild inside the burning house. Instead, they are building new houses with new rules, and entry is by invitation only. Some are building literal compounds with groups of like minded men who pool resources and create self sustaining communities. Others are vetting individual women from cultures that never swallowed the Western toxicity pill and bringing them back or relocating permanently. Still others are choosing voluntary child free lives of luxury and brotherhood that previous generations could only dream about. The common thread is control. For the first time in living memory, men are the ones writing the terms of engagement, height requirements, weight requirements, debt requirements, follower count maximums, age limits, virginity tests in some cases, cohabitation agreements, prenups that actually protect the man. All of these things that were mocked as insecure or controlling 5 years ago are now non negotiable for a growing percentage of high value men. And the women who want access to those men are agreeing to terms that would have been considered domestic abuse in 2018. The market has spoken. The last piece of the puzzle is legacy. The old world told men their legacy was children and a wife who would honor them after they were gone. The new world is showing men that legacy can be different. A man with no children can leave 8 figures to his nephews, his best friend's kids, or a charitable trust that carries his name for centuries. A man with no wife can be remembered as the uncle who put 5 kids through college and took them on hunting trips every year. A man who dies childless, but surrounded by brothers who would burn cities for his memory, has a legacy that blood alone could never match. This is the part the old system is terrified of. Men redefining success on their own terms and discovering they like their new definition better. When enough men reach that point, the entire social contract rewrites itself, whether anyone likes it or not. The next 5 years are going to be the most brutal stress test the old system has ever faced because the walkaway is moving from individual choice to structural reality. Every institution that depended on male compliance is about to discover what happens when compliance quietly evaporates. Start with the marriage industrial complex. In 2025, we are already seeing law firms that specialized in 6 figure weddings pivot to conscious uncoupling packages because the inflow of new marriages has slowed to a trickle. Bridal magazines are folding. David's Bridal filed bankruptcy again. The average wedding cost in the United States is now $65,000 and climbing, while the average groom's contribution is shrinking because the average groom no longer exists in large enough numbers to keep the machine running. Planners are openly telling brides on forums that they need to lower their expectations because men just aren't proposing anymore. Translation: men looked at the price tag, looked at the 50% failure rate, looked at the legal meat grinder waiting on the other side, and decided a 10-day solo trip to Iceland and a new Ford Raptor was a better investment. They are not wrong. Divorce attorneys, meanwhile, are experiencing the opposite problem. The easy money, the enraged wife who wants to take everything, is still there, but the supply of husbands with assets worth taking is drying up faster than anyone predicted. Men learned. They learned to never marry up in earnings, never commingle finances, never put her name on the deed, never get her pregnant before a 5 year track record. And if they do marry, to do it in jurisdictions with ironclad prenups or overseas entirely. The result is a growing class of men who walk out of 10-year relationships with the same net worth they walked in with, while the system screams about financial abuse. The attorneys who spent decades feasting on male productive surplus are now staring at lean years ahead. Higher education is next in the crosshairs. Male college enrollment has been falling for 12 straight years and just hit the lowest percentage in recorded history. In many liberal arts programs, the ratio is now 4 women for every 1 man. Universities responded the only way they know how. They doubled down on the very messaging that drove men away in the first place. More mandatory consent classes, more Title IX offices, more toxic masculinity seminars, more residential life policies that treat normal male behavior as a threat. The result is predictable. Men looked at the $100,000 price tag, looked at the return on investment for a gender studies degree, looked at the campus environment that treats them like defective predators, and chose trade school, coding boot camps, sales jobs, or straight entrepreneurship instead. The trades are now drowning in applications from sharp young men who make $90,000 a year by 24, swinging a hammer debt free, while the universities are taking out emergency loans to keep the lights on. The political response is already taking shape, and it is going to get ugly. Expect a wave of male accountability laws over the next 3 to 5 years. They will start with soft language, incentives for fatherhood, tax credits for marriage, mandatory paternity leave usage, and rapidly escalate when the numbers do not move. We will see versions of bachelor taxes floated in Europe first, then in blue states. We will see child support reforms that assume guilt and garnish wages before a hearing. We will see campaigns that frame childlessness as a national emergency and single men as the villains. Some countries will try to restrict male emigration the way they once restricted female emigration. Thailand and the Philippines already have quiet discussions happening about visa changes because local politicians are noticing that their most attractive women are pairing off with foreign men who then leave and take the women with them. The backlash is coming. The smarter men are preparing for it now. That preparation looks like this: offshore companies, residency in at least one other country, assets held in structures that cannot be touched by Western courts, crypto cold storage, physical gold buried in places only you know about, multiple passports if you can swing it, and a lifestyle that can be picked up and moved in 48 hours. The men who waited until the laws changed to start moving will be the ones posting crying videos from inside the cage. The men who moved 5 years ago will be sipping something cold on a beach, watching it all burn from a safe distance. The black pill temptation is the last trap, and we have to talk about it plainly. There is a growing chorus saying the only winning move is total monastic isolation. Never touch a woman again. Let the West collapse. Laugh from the rubble. That is a coping mechanism dressed as wisdom. Complete abdication is exactly what the system wants, because a civilization without children dies in one generation. The real power move is not to burn the game board, it is to rewrite the rules and play only on boards you control. High value men are already doing this. They are vetting ruthlessly, locking down cooperative women from healthier cultures, building families on their own terms, and raising sons who will never be exposed to the poison that almost destroyed their fathers. That is the ultimate revenge, a lineage of free men who look back at 2025 the way we look back at feudal serfdom. The step by step playbook for any man watching right now is brutally simple, and this is the part you screenshot and save. Step one: secure your money. Debt is chains. Get ruthless. Live on half your income for 12 to 24 months, throw everything else at debt, then rebuild an emergency fund in assets that cannot be frozen or garnished. Learn crypto basics at Angry's Crypto Academy, link in description, because the financial system you grew up with is not going to survive this transition intact. Step 2, secure your body. 6 days a week in the gym or on the mat for the next 5 years turns an average man into a physical specimen most women have never seen in real life. The confidence and health benefits alone pay dividends that cannot be measured. Step 3, secure your mind. Delete social media that rots your brain. Curate a small, high signal information diet. Books, long form podcasts, private discords with men ahead of you. Cut out porn entirely. It is chemical castration disguised as entertainment. Step 4, secure your location. If you live in a high risk jurisdiction, California, New York, London, Toronto, Sydney, you have a 5-year window to relocate before exit becomes expensive or impossible. Red states, red countries, or both. Remote income makes this easier than ever. And step 5, secure your brotherhood. 3 to 5 men you would die for and who would die for you. Everything else is noise. And step 6, only after the first 5 are locked in do you even think about vetting a woman. And when you do, you vet like a private investigator with trust issues. Background checks, social media archives, friend interviews, family observation, long engagement, ironclad legal protection. If she balks at any of it, next. Abundance is real once you have the first 5 pieces in place. That is the entire game. 6 steps executed with discipline, and you are untouchable. We are now past 12,000 words, and the final piece is the vision of what comes after the collapse. Because collapse is not the end, it is the reset. Picture 2035. The urban cores that priced men out and criminalized their existence are half empty, beautiful old buildings selling for pennies on the dollar because the tax base walked away. Small towns and rural counties that treated men with respect are booming with young families led by fathers who never knew the old poison. Parallel economies built on crypto, barter, and brotherhood are humming while the old fiat system hyperinflates to fund the promises it can never keep. Birth rates in healthy communities are above replacement. Birth rates in the old cities are approaching zero. Entire bloodlines that bought the lie are blinking out of existence, while new patriarchies built on consent, strength, and mutual respect are planting flags and raising banners that will last 1,000 years. That is the prize on the other side of the walkaway. Not bitterness, not loneliness, not revenge. Legacy. Real legacy built on your terms with people who earned their place at your table. The old world is dying. The new one is already being born in garages, gyms, group chats, and quiet plots of land where men gather at sunset to drink beer and talk about what they are building next. All you have to do is choose which side of history you want to stand on. We just crossed 15,000 words of pure signal. This is the most complete map I can give you in one sitting. Execute or watch from the sidelines. Those are the only 2 options left. What did you think about the full picture? Are you ready to start step 1 tomorrow morning? Or are you still waiting for permission that will never come? Tell me in the comments where you are on the path. Let us see how many men are already moving. Like the video if you like it. Don't forget to subscribe. And if you like the video, share the video. And just remember that all roads lead to MWA, men walking away, and cheers.
Nothing says you care like crypto. Nothing can compare. Nothing says you care like crypto. Oh, nothing can compare to crypto.